Okay, we're on. I'm going to edit this part out. With Survivor Series coming up this Sunday, what would Monday Night Raw do to hype up the show? Not much, to be honest. I'll explain as WGS-TV reviews Monday Night Raw for the week of November 14th, 2016. Hey, YouTube, are you ready for your hot tag? Because if you are, it's definitely time to work. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of WGS-TV right here on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. If you guys are noticing a little bit something different about the videos this week, it's due to the fact that my Logitech webcam has gone missing. And the camera on my HP laptop is utter garbage. So there will be no cam footage this week of your old pal, the WrestleGamer. But hey, we're still going to have a review nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen. And joining me on this review is the one, the only host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, the one, the only Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. I'm going to tell you guys, you got to hear this before we get into wrestling. It's November. We are less than a week away from Thanksgiving. I look out my window, and what do I see? 20 turkeys crossing my my lawn. I kid you not. And it's like looking at us like saying, ha ha, fuck you, go buy it.
With the build to Survivor Series basically non-existent except for the hype up of Goldberg and Lesnar, WWE would have to pull off a pretty good go-home show to sell it. Now, did they do that? To answer that question, let's talk about Raw. With this being the Raw go-home show for Survivor Series, I kind of expected them to start the show with them hyping up the show, and lo and behold, that's exactly what they did. Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley basically doing just that, hyping up each match before making several matches for the night, which was Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens taking on Cesaro and Sheamus, Nia Jax teaming up with Alicia Fox to take on Charlotte and Sasha Banks, and the New Day teaming up to take on the rest of the Raw Men's Survivor Series team, which consisted of Chris Jericho, Braun Strowman, and Seth Rollins. So I gotta say, Rick, Monday Night Raw off to what would be considered a typical start, but I think with this being the go-home show, it's what they needed to do.
I can understand why they did it. The fact is, how they did and how it was executed, and all these matches ended, were so blatantly obvious. I was sitting there with Miss Jess, my woman, and she likes wrestling. She was sitting down watching it, and she said, "Oh, you know what? The guys, the heel and the babyface teams are going to win." Because it's just obviously how they're setting the things up. For me, it was very, very dull and dry. The matches themselves really didn't have a lot of action. And then you have the, I think the only thing I can really say is respectable is the cruiserweight matches.
Backstage, Chris Jericho gave Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman their own scarves. The only thing I want to say is Jericho is awesome as a heel, Rick. The scarves of Jericho, try it on, man. I loved it. It's hilarious. But up next, it was Sami Zayn taking on Bo Dallas. It was an okay match, but they kind of just had Bo job out a bit for Zayn. Now, I get why they did it. They had to make Zayn look strong on the go-home show for Survivor Series in the Intercontinental Championship match with Ziggler. Remember, this was at the time Ziggler. We'll discuss that when we talk about SmackDown Live a little bit later. But to me, Rick, it was kind of expected.
Absolutely, and they're going to do it every single time when they, have someone who's going to be in a Survivor Series match against, somebody who's not in the series. That person, in this case, Sami Zayn, is going to go over. Even if he had fought somebody on a higher level, like let's say Rusev, he would still go over.
Yep. Brian Kendrick wanted to speak to the Cruiserweight division, which devolved rather quickly backstage, considering the problems he has with T.J. Perkins, Rich Swann, and Noam Dar. But would WWE follow up with that? Well, we'll talk about that when we get to Brian Kendrick's match. Up next, it was the six-man tag team match with New Day taking on Chris Jericho, Braun Strowman, and Seth Rollins. Rick, in your personal opinion, are the New Day's promos starting to get a little bit drawn out?
Well, the fact is they keep on coming out with some new material. I can understand why some people it gets dry, and other times it's like, they'll come out with some new content, and I still get a chuckle at it. But I do agree, and I can see why some people would consider it a bit dry. But I'm not saying I'm ready to pull the plug yet.
Overall, I thought the match worked well for what it was. WWE really tried to make the Raw team look strong because all members of the Raw team went over in their respective matches. The finish of the match was Strowman hitting the power slam on Xavier Woods to pick up the win for his team. But again, Rick, this was WWE doing what they can to make the Raw men's team on Monday Night Raw look strong going into Survivor Series.
And again, it's the theme of the night. Make the Raw team look strong. And I can only say, I watched the matches and I'm like, okay, please, just these 3 hours. I feel like I've lost time, with the exception of a few segments which we haven't gotten to yet.
Up next, it was Brian Kendrick taking on Sin Cara, a preview of sorts, since this Sunday it will be Sin Cara's former Lucha Dragon tag team partner and Kalisto for the Cruiserweight Championship. Was this your typical high-energy Cruiserweight match? Not by a long shot. Now, with the headbutt in the corner, Rick, it's very hard to say who was at fault for that botch, but to me, it looked like Sin Cara turned his head at the wrong time.
Oh, yes, Sin Botcher, yes. You know what? Both Kalisto and Sin Cara, who were supposed to be luchadors and came from a luchador background, these guys fuck up every single time. Now, keep in mind, there were two Sin Caras, and the new one, I believe he was Hunico, if I'm not mistaken. So
Mystico was the first one.
Yes, thank you very much. And the fact is, these guys just cannot get this shit together. There was that headbutt, and if I'm not mistaken, it was either Kalisto or whatever, where there was a spot where somebody, the wrestler was up against the chair, the stairs, and went to do a running knee, and he flips over and completely misses. And it was blatantly obvious. I think it might have been Kalisto versus. I forget who it was on SmackDown, but it was one of the spots. It was either Kalisto or Sin Cara, and it's like they missed it by a mile.
Well, the finish of this match was Kendrick locking on the captain's hook to pick up the win. One would figure that WWE would follow up with this Cruiserweight storyline, possibly for the debut of 205 Live, but all things considered, don't hold your breath. Up next, it was the face-to-face confrontation between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, and it was definitely interesting to watch, considering that this was the first time that they were in the ring together in 12 years. I'm glad Paul Heyman was out there because he really helped sell the promo. Goldberg was never really keen on promos, and he really wasn't on par per se during this promo, but it kind of felt like the crowd was still really eating it up, though, even though it did look like the Goldberg chants were being piped in. Now, having Lesnar take the heel way out of the confrontation, Rick, to me was necessary to the fact that Lesnar is being put over as the heel in the angle while Goldberg is the face.
I can understand that, but the segment for me was dry. I've never liked Goldberg. Brock Lesnar, I hold a little more respect, but I use that term little. And it's... the whole segment for me was dry. Goldberg's promo, he was trying too hard to talk tough, and it just wasn't working. The guy's 50 years old, and then on top of, they always do it. They always get ready to fight, and then, the heel walks away. It's the heel walk, or they tease the fight. And to me, it was obvious. You knew that the gods were going to get thrown around, but you knew they weren't going to throw punches against each other. It was just expected.
Yeah, this is basically Wrestling 101, guys. If you follow my channel, then you should know that by now. Up next, it was Charlotte and Sasha Banks taking on Alicia Fox and Nia Jax. I seem to notice that during this match, what I seem to notice was the issues between Sasha and Charlotte were more of the highlight of this match than anything. I did like Bayley on commentary putting over Survivor Series, and she did a pretty good job of doing it. The finish of the match was Sasha locking on the bank semen on Alicia Fox to pick up the win. And after the match, Bayley wanted to hug it out with both Sasha and Charlotte. Sasha was willing, but with Charlotte being the heel, of course, she would decline. But I would like to officially volunteer to take Charlotte's place for that hug, Bayley. That is, of course, Rick, if the offer is still on the table.
You know what? I'm sorry. I have to do a little bit more. I have to do the Donald Trump and grab her by the pussy.
Oh, God. Oh, Speaking of that, up next it was Enzo and Big Cass teaming up with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson to take on the Golden Truth and the Shining Stars. Looking back at this one, more of the focus was on Gallows and Anderson since they were the heels that basically said they were going to stab their partners in the back. Now, did they do that in this match per se? Not to the extent of costing them the match. What they did do is after hitting the Magic Killer on Primo, Gallows and Anderson motioned towards Enzo for possibly the Bada Boom Shakalaka, their version of the rocket launcher. And instead of tagging Enzo, Gallows covered Primo, denying Enzo and the fans their favorite finish from Cass and Enzo. Rick, I think this is possibly what we could see coming up at Survivor Series for that tag team elimination match.
You know what? It's possible. I mean, it's definitely trying to antagonize the feud, and Survivor Series, unfortunately, kind of put a block on that road. Now, I've never really been a fan of Survivor Series. Out of the big four, I'd consider that on the bottom of the list. Even other pay-per-views such as Money in the Bank, which I like, Hell in a Cell. All these are higher up. Survivor Series to me is just going to be just another show to watch.
The main event segment this week was the Survivor Series summit between the commissioners and the GMs of both shows, which turned into a confrontation between the Raw and SmackDown Live Men's Survivor Series teams. And yes, even James freaking Ellsworth got an appearance on a Monday Night Raw. Now, having these two teams clash at the end of Raw the way they did helped them to build towards their match because, let's be honest, there hasn't been much of a build for Survivor Series, and it's going to be a 6-hour show like SummerSlam was.
Are you fucking kidding me? What?
It was reported that it's going to be a 2-hour kickoff.
Which means they're probably going to be doing, I know that this is kind of over on SmackDown. That tells me that Ziggler's not necessarily out of the picture just yet. But,
go ahead.
Yeah, but 6 hours for a shitty show, 4 hours for the main show, not worth it at all. And never mind the post show, because I don't think anybody watches a post show.
Not even me. But with this being the Raw Go Home show for the Survivor Series, it only makes sense to make the Raw team look strong heading into the pay-per-view this Sunday. Overall score on Raw this week gets a 3 out of 5, with best segment of the night going to the Goldberg-Lesnar confrontation because it was the most interesting segment to me, with worst match of the night going to Kendrick versus Sin Cara because it just looked like they went out there and laid an egg. Rick, over to you, your overall score and your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week.
Well, I can't give it a 3. I'd have to give it maybe almost I'll say 1.75 because the majority of the show is not shit. Even the cruiserweights. Now, I have been nothing but a fan of cruiserweights. I've never had one bad thing to say until I saw that match, and that was the worst match of the night. Now, the second segment that I could not stand was a Goldberg, Lesnar face-off. They were pushing it, and nothing really happened. Now, the main thing when they did the Raw SmackDown Summit, to me, that was the spot of the night because Chris Jericho looks over at Ellsworth and goes, "What the hell is that?" And of course he does the list, and I have been marking out every time he does the list because that's funny as hell. So for me, and they did the obvious. They had the big fight where the Raw team looked strong on Raw. So that's pretty much it.
Well, you pretty much got a point there, Rick. Well, anyway, guys and gals, that's been our thoughts on Monday Night Raw this week. We want to know from you guys out there, the viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on Monday Night Raw. What are your overall scores? What are your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week? Definitely want to hear what you guys out there have to say. Be sure you put your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to slam that like button like a champ. Rick, where can fans check you out on HWR?
Well, right now we do have a YouTube page, which is youtube.com/HWR show. Right now, our podcast seems to be incognito. We're kind of, doing some redesigning, but right now, though, we're always, having a conversation. We're over on Facebook. We're in a group sections. We want people to come on, say what you want, how you want to say about wrestling. We're not one of these, shitty groups that has 50,000 rules. You got something to say about wrestling, fucking say it. We don't give a shit.
And don't forget, this Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central Time, right here on WGS-TV with Sports Entertainment Tonight, me, Nick Fuqua, and Mark Traha, we're going to break down both NXT TakeOver Toronto and Survivor Series. So if you guys want to tune in and actually get your predictions on the air, be sure you tune in right here to youtube.com/WrestleGamer. Again, that's this Thursday night, 9 p.m. Central Time, right here on WGS-TV. Also, guys, don't be a curtain jerk if you want to see more of your old pal, the Russell Gamer, when he gets his camera found and back on here. But with more wrestling talk with awesome gameplays, you know the way to do it. You got to hit that subscribe button down below. So with that being said, for the host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Head, I am your friendly neighborhood Russell Gamer, and I'll see you at the next Warp Zone. Bye, guys. All right, this is going to be the cut point for it. Okay, and here we go for SmackDown. How would SmackDown Live answer Monday Night Raw on the go-home show aspect? We'll tell you as WGS-TV reviews SmackDown Live for the week of November 15th, 2016. Hey, YouTube, are you ready for your hot tag? Because if you are, it's definitely time to warp. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of WGS-TV right here on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. I am your friendly neighborhood WrestleGamer. If you're wondering why there's no camera on the SmackDown review this week, then you didn't watch the Monday Night Raw review. So shame on you, and I will not tell you. Anyway, joining me on the SmackDown review this week, ladies and gentlemen, he is the host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, and the turkeys are finally up in the trees.
And again, if you want to know what Rick is talking about, if you don't know what he's talking about, then you didn't watch the Raw review. Anyway, with this being the 900th episode of SmackDown Live, the two hyped-up appearances, excuse me, of Edge and The Undertaker definitely added a nostalgia factor to the show. But how exactly would this play into the final build leading into Survivor Series? In order to answer that question, let's talk about SmackDown Live. The 900th episode of SmackDown Live would open up with the Intercontinental Championship match between Dolph Ziggler and The Miz. First off, I have to say, how hot was Maurice? She was just, let me just say this. Miz is more of a winner than any of us on that matter. I think that's the only thing we can say, right, Rick?
Oh, absolutely. Maurice, as annoying her voice is, man, she's got a body. All I have to do is just tape her mouth up. Well, no, I can't tape her mouth up because there's other things I'd like for her to do with her mouth. I just say, shut the fuck up, bitch.
Okay, Miz and Ziggler have had some awesome matches in the past, and this one wasn't a disappointment except for the predictable ending. Am I surprised in the least that the Spirit Squad showed up? And thanks to their distraction and Maurice pushing Miz on top of Ziggler in the small package to give Miz the win? Not really, but honestly, Rick, I was looking more forward to Ziggler and Sami Zayn for the title in Survivor Series because that match had potential to be a really awesome show-stealing match. But now that The Miz has replaced Ziggler in the match, my hopes for a great title match have basically been dashed.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I was shocked. I thought, that Ziggler was going to get the win. And again, where he would go over, and that was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, his first real title defense, and he lost. So I don't know.
He did do that one move super kick against Kurt Hawkins as an Intercontinental title match.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't really count. But,
yeah, you got a point.
I think the fact that they should have done the open, he should have kept it as an open challenge. It would have given the IC title a lot more respect. Again, as I said in the previous review, on the Raw review, I don't think this is it for Ziggler, because keep in mind, he is entitled to a rematch. So, there's a 2-hour kickoff show for Raw, for Survivor Series. So, who's to say that, they might be able to stir things up?
Up next, it was Kalisto taking on Oney Lorcan from NXT. This was basically just Lorcan dominating 95% of the match, with Kalisto hitting only one move, the SDS, the Salito del Sol, to pick up the win. Now, Rick, if they were trying to make Kalisto look strong for the Survivor Series, I honestly don't know if they accomplished that or not.
Well, again, like I said, Kalisto, he's another botcher. Just like him and Sin Cara, these guys were lucha libres. They come, from that origin, and so you would figure they would be a lot better doing spots, and they fuck up all the time. If you even remember when, I think it was in the match, when Kalisto was supposed to do a springboard, he completely missed the ropes.
I thought he slipped.
Well, that's what. He misstepped or slipped, but it's just the idea was it was just another botch by by him, and it's just like he just can't get his shit together.
Back down, the SmackDown Live Tag Team Survivor Series team were treated to an appearance by King Booker. That is, until the Fashion Police of Breezango showed up. I don't know what else to say about that, Rick.
You didn't say that. Tell me you just didn't say that. You know what? I hate to say it. Usually I hate King Booker's that gimmick, but for a long time, but small times like that and short times, I have to say I enjoyed it. I found it funny.
And not only that, but again, that brings a nostalgia factor back into the show because for the longest time, King Booker was the World Heavyweight Champion of SmackDown. So again, that does add a nostalgia factor to it. Now, up next, it was Nikki Bella taking on Carmella. Now, having Charlotte out there and then the rest of the Raw women's team show up and have the match basically thrown out made sense, just as the men's team did on Raw the previous night. I think a lot of people on social media, Rick, were hoping to see something like this, and I, for one, am glad WWE actually followed through with this.
Again, they're trying to give a little bit more flavor, spotlight to the Divas, and I think this was great. As far as Nikki and Carmella, I'm not impressed with either one. I mean, Nikki, she's improved over the years, but it took her so many years to get that improvement. Now it's to the point where I just want to see her leave. Carmella, it looks like she's just going to be a replacement, and I'm not looking forward to it. She's got a bit of a butter face.
Well, I will say this. I'm glad the WWE is giving the women's Survivor Series match a push, just like the men's match. And with this being SmackDown Live, the SmackDown women's team went over in the confrontation instead of the Raw women's team. Had this confrontation been on Monday Night Raw, one would say that the opposite conversely would happen, that the Raw women's team would go over in the confrontation. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Up next, it was the Headbangers, the Ascension, the Spirit Squad, and the Vaudevillains. Basically, every tag team that lost in the qualifying match to be in the Survivor Series tag team match, taking on American Alpha, the Usos, the Hype Bros, and Breezango. This was kind of a preview of what the Survivor Series match with the tag teams is going to look like this Sunday. A lot of people out there with a lot of action. And SmackDown, just like they did on Monday Night Raw, made their own team look strong by having American Alpha hit the Grand Amplitude on Thrasher to pick up the win for their team. But like I said, Vic, this is basically a preview of what the SmackDown Survivor Series or the Tag Team Survivor Series match is going to look like.
Absolutely. Again, they're pushing, for the go-home show. They're always trying to push those matches, and they have to put one of their contenders over. And in this case, the Team SmackDown was the obvious ones because you have to make them, again, look strong. A lot of action, but too many spots to call. A lot of good spots. I'd have to say this one case, from what I saw, was flawless.
The main event segment of SmackDown Live was the return of the Cutting Edge with Edge, who let his hair and beard grow out once again, as the SmackDown Live men's team were the focus of the segment. Well, they were the focus of the segment, that is, until The Undertaker showed up. He made a statement saying that he will no longer let WrestleMania define who he is, and he's back taking souls and digging holes. He also laid out a warning to the SmackDown Live men's team that they better not lose to Raw or else they won't answer to him. Rick, there are several questions that we have to ask about this segment. One is, how long will The Undertaker be around this time?
I'm going to be honest with you. And when he came out, the entrance was a lot more climactic than his promo. I thought his promo was dry and dull. I want to make this very clear before we get a lot of hate mail and hate comments. The Undertaker is a legend, but the problem is he's riding on his coattails far too long. Ric Flair did it, and I don't think anybody really remembers what he's done when he was in this high, in his heyday. They're remembering the shit he's doing now, where he's acting like an idiot, or falling down drunk. Hulk Hogan, same thing. He comes out, he gets a nostalgia factor, but that's all it really is. People aren't looking at Hogan from what he was back when Hulkamania was running wild, or even in the NWO. There's a time to walk away, and considering Undertaker only comes around once a year, I think it's just time for him to hang that up, especially with the hip replacement he's received.
And conversely, my second question is, can he go when he needs to? Because he's up there in age. So can he do it? That's the question.
Well, can he do it? You know, I don't think he can, but you know what? He's been known to prove us wrong time and time again. If you watch his matches, though, he usually spends a lot of time outside getting a rest, while, other things are happening. The wrestler could be kind of like, like recovering, or he'll just take a beating with very easy small moves like the chair shots. If you remember a few years ago when he did a Hell in a Cell with Triple H. And he really took some moves, but when you do a chair shot to the back, anybody wrestler will tell you it's not as painful as it looks, or it's basically the bark is worse than the bark is worse than the bite. Excuse me, guys, I'm a little stoned, so I can't talk exactly right now properly.
I found that out personally, and I'm not going to tell everybody else why I found that out, or even how I found that out. Rick, you better not say it.
I won't. I'll keep my mouth shut on that one. But I really don't want to see Undertaker again. I really want him just to come to the ring as Mark Calloway. Maybe come out in his uniform, but come out, put the hat down, put the gloves down, put the jacket down, and say, guys, thank you. I love you. Thanks for the sport. And just walk away. Just go, it's that time. I want to remember Undertaker for 40 years, not what he is now.
Overall score on SmackDown Live this week gets a 3.5 out of 5 with best segment of the night going to the cutting edge, with worst match of the night going to Kalisto taking on Oni Lorcan for reasons I have already stated in this review. Rick, what about you? Your overall score and your picks for best and worst match or segment of SmackDown Live this week?
Well, without a question, the best match of the night, from what I gathered, it was Team SmackDown versus the Team Losers, or the Team Qualifier Losers. The worst segment, the cutting edge. Edge was there. Now, my girlfriend never knew who Ms. Jack Shit, who's never seen Edge before. She looks like, who's that? He looks like a cowboy. And, his promo.
With the beard, yeah.
Yeah. And, with the promo, it was anticlimactic. Undertaker, again, I respect him, but all it was just, he tries to talk tough, and, I just roll my eyes and say, yeah, okay, keep saying that when you're in the nursing home.
Well, guys and gals, that's been our thoughts on SmackDown Live this week. We want to know from you guys out there, the viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on on SmackDown Live, the 900th episode of SmackDown Live, which really didn't have a lot of focus on it. I'm just saying, for your 900th episode, it should have been a little bit more of a blown up celebration of it, but I guess maybe they're saving that for the 1000th episode of SmackDown Live, which will probably be happening in a couple of years. So we want to know from you guys out there is your thoughts on SmackDown Live. What are your overall scores? What are your picks for best and worst match or segment of SmackDown Live? We want to hear what you guys out there have to say. Be sure you put your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to slam that like button like a champ. Rick, where can fans check you out on HWR?
Well, we have a chat group over at Facebook.com under the name HWR Chat Room. We are primarily podcasting, but right now we're kind of working on some new projects and kind of like redesigning at the moment. So it's a little bit on hiatus, but the chat room, that's where it is right now. We're doing a lot of blogs. We're giving our thoughts. We do play-by-plays for both Raw, SmackDown, as well as pay-per-views. For both of them, we will have play-by-plays as well as video clips. So that's Facebook.com/groups, and that's HWR Chat Room. So check us out, guys.
And don't forget, this Thursday night, 9 p.m. Central Time on Sports Entertainment Tonight, yours truly, along with Nick Fuquay and Mark Trahan, will be breaking down both NXT TakeOver Toronto and WWE Survivor Series. So if you want to get in your picks and your predictions for both TakeOver Toronto and Survivor Series, the only way to do that is to tune in this Thursday night, 9 p.m. Central Time, right here on WGS-TV for Sports Entertainment Tonight. So, and if you guys want to see more of great wrestling talk with awesome gameplays, you know how to do that. Got to hit that subscribe button down below. So with that being said, for the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Head, I am your friendly neighborhood wrestle gamer, and I'll see you at the next Warp Zone. Bye, guys.